What? Did you start it?
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Now,
Okay.
once I start, like just count down 10 seconds, then start.
Okay. Welcome to Tell Me I'm Wrong podcast with your host, Mr.No, where I'm normally right and you're welcome to try to prove me otherwise. We talk about a lot of things here. We talk about a little boom bap, a little of that. And we like to talk about music void of the music and other things of that nature. And I'll talk more about that as time goes on, but who cares right now? Right now, we got my very special guest, my brother in the house, you know what I mean? That's my man P. We got him back on the show because I wanted him back on the show. What's going on, Mr. P? Mr. Phil Jackson, that's my man's.
How you doing, man? How's everything been going? I know you're busy, so yeah, thank you for inviting me onto the show. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And you know what? I had some things on my mind earlier today, and I'm kind of glad that we had that the last interview that we had. I felt like that was a pre-interview, and I got some groundwork, but it had me thinking about the as far as speaking about you personally.
Okay.
When you became engulfed in the hip hop culture, because I watched it happen, right? Because I was around, you know, when I was young and you were young, and I watched it happen. But was there and like I said, you were the first one of us to have turntables, right? But did you go through because I know with fashion, when hip hop was doing its thing in like the 90s, early 90s, with fashion, you were keeping up with the fashion. You're the first one that had a Big Daddy Kane 2-finger gold ring bangers, right? Years later, you were the first one that had the turntables or whatever. But you never thought to try out one of those aspects of hip hop? Like when you had the DJ thing, like did you spend hours trying to scratch, or did you ever try to write a rhyme or anything like that? Like what's up with that?
Nah, I wasn't. I just love the MCs. I love rapping, but I would never try. I never tried to do that. DJing, you know what? Because I did have turntables, but they were the wrong turntables. They weren't belt driven.
Oh, they
So
were belt driven.
no, they weren't. So I really couldn't get the full. I could blend, but I couldn't get the full grasp of it. So like and then I just left it alone. But I studied, turntablism. But actually, to be honest, it really didn't even start in the 90s with me. It really started in the 80s. You know,
Really?
yeah, when I was living in North Carolina, and then actually hip hop was really starting to take off. It was still new. Nobody didn't know what the hell was going on. But actually, to be honest, I got to give all the credit to really getting into the culture by going up to Detroit, Michigan every single summer back in the 80s. That's
Right? Home of the legendary Jay Dilla, correct?
that's where I really, that was my first I went to my first concert, the Raising Hell tour. That was Run DMC, LL Cool J, Houdini. I think the Beastie Boys were there. That was at Cobo Hall. That's an old school arena in Detroit, Michigan. I got my first pair of Gazelles there. I got my first starter jacket there. Because I owe everything to Detroit, Michigan. I had a Slum Village on my show, and I actually told them, if it wasn't for Detroit, Michigan, then no, my cousin. Shout out to my cousin Ray Carter out there. Um, his record collection. I remember him putting on PE's Yo Bum Rush the show, and that's when I fell in love with hip hop because that was they had hip hop radio shows there on the radio station. So back in North Carolina, living down south back, especially back then in the 80s, we got things secondhand, and we would get
Right.
things months later. So, but going up to Detroit, Michigan, I was engulfed in the hip hop culture, man. So it really started back in the 80s with me in Detroit, Michigan.
The 80s. So when you say the 80s, we're talking what, like 88, 89, or
Uh
earlier?
oh, early. I mean, Sugar Hill Gang and Cold
Wait,
Crush,
so okay, wait, so
all that.
but you were in that. Now it's like, because I say all the time when I was young, so how old were you around then? You're saying how old were you? Like what like
Like
how old were
14,
you?
like 13, 14, 15, something like that.
13, 14, 15 years old. Okay. Cause I know when I say it, oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I say it all the time, but I didn't start liking hip hop. Like I didn't have a mature enough palate for hip hop until I turned, well, not even until I turned whatever age, but until about 93. And I think I was like 11 or 12 years old around then. But it wasn't that I wasn't exposed to it before then. It's just that it didn't resonate with me when it was more of that, you know what I mean, party style or whatever. Like I started to get fed to hip hop more so. I mean, thank God for you guys keeping my ear to the ground. But on the pop level, that's when you had your Kid and Plays, your MC Hammers. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I remember Vanilla Ice coming out. You know what I mean? When that was kind of like the Fresh Prince, you know what I'm saying? Will Smith and all of that. That's when that was hitting. I remember hearing Summertime and I was like, yo, thank God for that one. That entire song's off the hook. The beat's hot, the flow's hot, everything was, you know what I mean? Like I didn't start liking hip hop until it started like sounding darker, right? Until we got DITC, which kind of typifies, the image I'm trying to put out with what I'm saying right now. DITC digging in the crates. You know what I mean? We wanted the vinyl sound. We wanted the grit sound. And it also made it more relatable to me then because it was more artsy at that point.
Right.
Like that's when it became, it's like, okay, the MC's spitting, but it's like, you want to listen to what he's saying now. Like listen to what's coming out of his mouth now, not just for the vibe, but and I wouldn't even say for the message, but for the wordplay. Like we were looking for like, okay, how are you juggling this now? You know what I mean? When it was developing itself in more of a I don't want to say an emceeing fashion, but more of a lyricist fashion, right? When it became that, then I could relate to it because it kind of took it took a how do I put it? Like it took almost like a human element from it, right? Because here's the thing, I could relate. Let's take a song. Let's take your hardcore song. Let's take "Throw Your Guns" by Onyx, right? I could listen to that song today, right, and be like, "Oh yeah, that's the classic. That's the banger." You know what I mean? I'm like, I in reality have no reference point for any of the stuff that they were talking about. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know nothing about guns. I don't know nothing about the streets, no nothing like that. But I can still listen to that song and every part of me will resonate with it because of the artistry of it, because of Sticky Fingers and all of them's delivery. You know what I mean? Because of the wordplay, because of the loops of the beat, how they dealt with the beat, how all that came together. I was actually able to regard that piece of music as like a classical work of art and can argue it to the death. You know what I mean? And be right, because that's the whole point of my show. Tell me I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Now I'm right about that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can completely, that's like why when I was coming up, it's like we as young children, like preteens, 12, 13, we used to be able to have an intelligent argument for why we listen to this kind of music and have some sort of ground if we were talking to our parents about it. You know what I mean? For example, I was listening to Fat Joe's Watch the Sound. It came out way back. I think it had Grand Poobah on it. I think it had Diamond D on it. Who else was on that?
Yeah, Grand Poobah, Diamond D. Yep.
All right, yeah, it was Grand P, Diamond D. I remember the video. I remember getting the single from Princeton Record Exchange, right? And I remember my brother talking about like, yo, popping in the deck. And I'm looking at him and I said, yo, Ed, we're in the car with mom and mom's okay with us listening to rap. But if there's cursing in it, she's going to immediately destroy the tape. There's no clean version on this single. Ed? I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, and back in the day would say that clean version, edited version. Something. I said, Ed, it's not on here. He's like, nah, man, we good, put it in. And sure enough, oh my gosh, because Fat Joe from back then, it was nigga everything, F everything. And it didn't take long before the verse came on. She ripped it right out the deck. took all the tape out of it and chucked it out the window.
Oh shit.
But the significance behind that is that everything was literally straight with my family, my brother and my mother listening to Fat Joe in the car. And the only problem was the actual profane words in it. Outside of that, everything else could have been appreciated about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? We lost that today, all right, but I ain't trying to go down that road. I'm just saying that I didn't start liking it until like when it started sounding that way. So it made me wonder, I mean, where you were, because it's like I just know you had a love for it that ran so deep that it took you into broadcasting and focusing mainly on it. But then it made me wonder, like, well, what about the other elements of it? Like, did you ever like play around with them or not? So it's like, it was like, nah. So what about the dancing thing? Never tried to break it or nothing like that?
Nope. I'm just a fan. I always been a fan. I never tried to break dance. I never tried to rap. I never tried to DJ. I mean, like the most I came close was probably DJing. That was it. I mean, but you know, I didn't try to rap. I didn't try to break dance. Of course, you know, you're messing around with your friends when I was when I was young. You know, of course, you know, I would get out there and try to spin, but I didn't practice.
Here's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. I was around when you were young. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't remember. I remember the polka dots. Did you have a couple polka dot shirts?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think you had a yellow. Did you have a yellow and black one?
Yeah, it was more fashion with me. I was
right.
I was more into the fact, and also too, I was more into having music before anybody else did.
Really?
Yeah, and to this day, I'm still like that.
Okay, plug real quick. Like I said, it was at Phil Jackson's house on a Christmas where I first heard "If You Can You Can Hear" by Most Def, and that was the first. Now check this out. Follow me on this one. Oh my gosh, yo, that was the first song, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I heard that typified that lo-fi hip hop sound.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first one. I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know how to describe that instrument. That then the kick did that. It was offbeat. It came in such a way. Was that 88 keys or Sean J. Period?
I'm not for sure, but
it was one of them two. Because Sean J. Period and an 88 keys. One of them did the Universal Magnetic beat, and the other one did the "If You Can You Can Hear" beat.
Yeah,
on the other side of the record.
And I first heard those joints on the Wake Up Show. I first heard those on the Wake Up Show.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. P, you have no idea how monumental that night was. And believe it or not, I think, check it out. I can talk about this now because I'm older, but you may or may not remember